listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and with me as always is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to our midweek hike up to a great story.
Nice. Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, let's jump into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew.
Oh, what are you going to enjoy today?
Watermelon mint tea.
Delicious. Well, let's go ahead and start our story, shall we? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for making a set list of rules for a Disney trip? Hello, throwaway account since my sisters use Reddit.
Hello.
Every single year, me and my two sisters take a girls' trip to a random location. This year was finally my turn to plan a trip, so I decided to book a trip to Disney for 10 days. My sisters were very excited about this trip, and so was I, but the booking process took a while. Plus, it was pretty costly. Well, we are leaving in a week, and I created a set of rules for the trip. For example, no sleeping in past 8 a.m., rope dropping, wear sneakers only due to a lot of walking, etc. I sent my sisters this list today so they could know what to expect. They didn't take it too well and said that I was being very overdramatic and that this wasn't needed. I told them this definitely was needed to get the best experience out of Disney World. We got into an argument over it, and now they say they no longer want to go on the trip. I thought that making this list of rules would make things easier for everyone and make it a more enjoyable time, but maybe I was being a bit dramatic. Am I the a-hole?
Well, you started off with a fun story.
I definitely did.
So, there's 3 sisters, right? 3 sisters?
Correct.
Okay. It's her turn to plan the trip that they always go on annually, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay. It's her turn. She seems like a bit of a control, not freak, I hate that word, bit of a control nut. 10 days is a long time to spend anywhere. Disney?
Disney World.
Disney World, that's the one in Florida, right?
Correct.
It's a big one.
The
Epcot,
big-
that whole situation.
Right.
Okay. So maybe you wouldn't need 10 days. 10 days? That's a lot.
I think you actually would need a lot of days
10
in Disney.
days?
It's huge from what I understand.
Okay. Well, then maybe you need 10 days. But
I need
I
more
bet
than
that-
10 days.
I bet that is very expensive.
Oh, I can imagine, yes.
They never clarified how much. She just says it was expensive. Somehow you've managed to make the happiest place on earth the worst place to go. To your sisters. Down to footwear, I believe is what I heard was on that list.
Would you like to have this list just to see?
There's a comprehensive list.
We actually have the 7-rule list here.
Oh, let's hear that.
So, first rule, no sleeping in past 8 a.m.
All right.
Sneakers only. No negativity. Won't wait in lines for more than an hour and 30 minutes. We will have rest days. FOP is a must ride. FOP is Flight of Passage, which is the Avatar ride. If the line for a ride is too long in a day, we will go back at night and see if it is shorter.
That's it?
That's it.
It almost feels like these are very harmless. I don't know. I look at that as being playful outside of like the 8 a.m. thing. I think for most people when you're on vacation, don't bother me, kid.
Well, I believe that's where a lot of people bent sideways.
But for everything else, it almost seems harmless. Like, I doubt that people, like, you're not walking around a theme park in nothing else but shoes. Tennis shoes, you know what I mean? Like, I doubt your sisters are rolling up in there with high heels for 10 days.
This is a different Disney.
Yeah, apparently it is. So, I don't know. I look at that more as playful outside of the 8 a.m. thing. The no standing in line longer than X amount of time. Are you really caring about that much when you're in those lines? Especially when you're spending 10 days there. I guess I'm going to lean on that maybe she is the a-hole only because I may look at it as being playfully just dull stuff, but I can also understand that I don't know their sister, and maybe this is a legit, like, we're gonna follow these rules. I guess she would be the a-hole for kind of almost already having the trip ruined for her siblings. They're like, I don't want to deal with this, but I almost look at it as playful. I'd be like, shut up, you know, like, I'll wake up when I want. Like, it's a vacation. But
well, all of Reddit says she's the a-hole.
Okay.
They provided a lot of suggestions, and our OP actually gave us a little bit of an update. She said, I have read the majority of the comments. I apologize to my sisters, and we all had a group FaceTime about what we wanted to do on this trip, and I gave them suggestions instead of rules now. I told them that I could rope drop, and they could meet me whenever they got up, and they agreed. So now everybody is on good terms again. Thanks for the tips, guys, and I hope this trip will be worth it.
Oh, good. They didn't cancel it.
They
Awesome.
didn't
The
cancel
OP
it.
listened, and it sounds like a dope 10-day ahead. Now I'm jealous, even though 10 days at Disney sounds like a lot.
I have to disagree. I would say we should just add as many days of Disney as we can
Gotcha.
to make sure that we experience every little thing possible.
Time to make wake-up rules.
You can tell, listeners, between the two of us, which one likes Disney.
Yeah.
For our next story, am I the a-hole for telling my dad he and his wife need to look at themselves for the reason her son is struggling? My dad has me, 16 male, and my brother, 11 male, and our mom died 8 years ago. Dad met Chantel 6 years ago, and they got married 2 years ago. Her son is 10. My brother and I have known Chantel and her son for almost 4 years now, but not 4 years yet. Chantel's son, Kyle, is an only child, has no dad, no extended family, and he latched onto me fiercely when we met. It was frustrating how he'd insert himself into stuff with my brother. He'd invite himself along. He would try to touch me and hold on to me, and my dad and Chantel told me to allow it and hug him when I told them it made me uncomfortable and annoyed me. Eventually, I started to stop him and tell him not to touch me and not to cling to me. Dad and Chantel realized the three of us hadn't bonded the way they wanted us to for Kyle, so they insisted on leaving me with both him and my brother and having me babysit them while they left the house. This was during the day and night. Dad would also set up times where I had to take them to the park. So I should bring up, my brother and I are close, like super close. We lost our mom, all 4 grandparents, and our only uncle. We have aunts in the space of like 3 years. Losing them made us closer. I was always an affectionate big brother. My mom used to say that. And our relationship is so easy and natural that we hug, or I'd like to ruffle his hair, or he'll sit on me sometimes if he wants something. None of it is forced, and it just kind of happens. Kyle saw a lot of that during the forced babysitting, the forced park trips, etc. And he never got to hang all over me or be my shadow like he wanted. And I'm not affectionate with him, and it's caused him to have trouble dealing with stuff. Chantel was concerned, and so he went to therapy for that. He admitted to being jealous and that he hates my brother, but he also wants me to himself. He's still in therapy, but he told Chantel that he's never going to be happy not being my brother. Chantel and Dad blamed it all on me. They said I had a responsibility to Kyle to be a good brother to him, and that it was my job as the oldest to look out for him and make sure I was loving him the same as I love my brother. My dad has brought it up a couple of times on his own as well, and the last time I told him that he and Chantel should look at themselves because they knew Kyle was seriously clingy with me, and they sent him out with me and my brother knowing we're close and have an affectionate relationship, and did nothing to make sure he'd be okay. He told me I should have put my own feelings aside and done what Kyle needed me to do. Chantel was like, how dare I blame them? And she called me evil for blaming them when I have destroyed her son. Am I the a-hole?
No. That's an easy one. OP, you are not the a-hole. How old is he?
He's 16 years
He's
old.
16. Man, they put a lot on a 16-year-old, especially when this started 4 years prior. So he would have been 12 at the beginning of this whole introduction to the child, the Kyle being his youngest stepbrother.
Correct.
How old is Kyle? He's young.
Kyle is 10.
Same age as his little brother, right? Kind of the same age.
Correct.
Okay.
His brother is 11.
But unfortunately, Kyle, the stepbrother, has no parental dad figure in his life up to this point. And now he's looking at the OP as that figure. It was what it sounds like. Yeah, I feel bad for Kyle in this situation. Obviously, he was looking for that type of figure in his life, and then he clung to OP. Unfortunately, that's not OP's fault. It is the parents' fault for allowing that situation to fester the way it has, to the point where now the stepbrother Kyle is hating his other brother.
Correct.
Because now he's seeing that this affection that he's not getting is somehow caused because of the little brother. So I hate that it went to that situation for all of them. And yes, the OP is correct. It has everything to do with the parenting. If Kyle was looking for that type of relationship, he should have sought it with either the mother or the stepfather in this situation. Where was he in all of that?
Right.
Outside of forcing visitation on his eldest son as if it was his real responsibility to do that kind of stuff with the kid. I mean, yes, he says he has a very affectionate relationship with his actual brother, right? But you can't force that situation onto someone. So I feel bad for the OP. It sounds like your parents might also need to go get therapy themselves, because if they're trying to make you be the parent in this situation and give that type of love to the kid, they need to do some reassessment on how they're parenting.
Well, the OP did confirm that the only one having therapy here is only Kyle.
And I think maybe that probably should be like a whole family. Maybe the three of them need to go get some family therapy and counseling, because it sounds like there's a gap missing for Kyle and maybe for the parents. Yeah, I definitely don't think the OP is the a-hole in this situation.
Well, all of Reddit also agrees and says he's not the a-hole. Let me go ahead and actually read this commenter and what they say, because I do believe their perspective is a good one. Not the a-hole. And yes, it is your father and stepmother's fault. Kyle should have been told that the two of you are brothers. Plus, you've both suffered the same serious losses in a very short time. That means the two of you have a special bond. Kyle needs to be taught this bond with you will be different because of that, and he cannot force it otherwise. That will only drive you further away. And no one should ever be forced to accept affection and clinginess from someone if it makes them uncomfortable. You have the right to pick and choose who's allowed to touch you. I worry about you, to be blunt. In a few years, you're going to be able to live on your own, and you're going to want to have contact with your brother. I suspect your father and Chantel will forbid your brother from coming to see you unless Kyle can go too. Perhaps if you could persuade your father and stepmother into family therapy, the perspective of a qualified professional might help you.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying earlier, is they sound like they need to kind of reshuffle the deck and figure out what healthy is for everyone in that situation.
Well, let's shift away from some family and let's go over to a friend's party instead. Am I the a-hole for getting angry and kicking everyone out of my party because someone brought food I was allergic to? I recently hosted a party where I made it clear to everyone attending that I'm severely allergic to fish. So if you're going to bring food, don't bring fish. Well, my warning seemed to have fallen on deaf ears, as one of my guests brought and cooked fish in my kitchen. When the party started, for the first 40 minutes, I wasn't aware someone brought and was cooking fish inside the house because I was outside the whole time. When I went inside to use the bathroom, I noticed the fish smell instantly. I immediately went to the kitchen and told the person cooking the fish to get that shit out of my house. I reminded everyone of my food allergy. A lot of the other people there were already eating some of the fish, so now my whole house is contaminated with fish because people were touching everywhere. The guy gave me some BS excuse. Oh, you told me a month ago about your allergy. You should have reminded people. I then told him that I sent out a text 2 days ago to everyone reminding them, and he said he didn't get it. Yeah, sure. Anyway, at this point, I was panicking because I did not have my EpiPen in case I would get a severe allergic reaction. Also, I ate some of the food that was being cooked in my kitchen. Food contamination with the fish was likely. I kicked everyone out of my party even though it was still early in the evening, and I had invited them all over to celebrate. A lot of them traveled far, but at this point, I didn't care. Some of my guests got pissed off, saying I could just get rid of the fish and they all could wash their hands and I could just chill outside until the fish smell went away. I told them to f off and that they can all blame David for almost killing me. They thought I was overreacting, which I probably was, because again, I was pissed off. I was yelling at this point. A lot of my friends say I ruined the party because I overreacted, because I did not have to kick everyone out of the party since they did not bring the fish, and that I treated David too harshly because it was an honest mistake, and they recorded me yelling at him, which I honestly feel guilty about. Was I the a-hole here?
This is a good one. So OP lets everyone know he cannot have fish. He says deathly allergic, correct?
Correct.
Okay. He says he doesn't have EpiPen on him, so the one thing that could save him in a really tight pinch is not with him, that's kind of on his fault. You probably should always have that on you, especially when you're allergic to something as common as fish. That's got to be a rough existence, because there's a lot of things with fish product in it. You'd be surprised how many things you pull off a shelf that have some type of fish, even just a little bit.
Oh yeah.
On in everything. So that's pretty.
Same thing can be said about peanuts, though.
That's a pretty tough existence, right? I would imagine. He says that 2 months ago, when they sent the invite, he lets them know, and then a couple days before the party happens, he texts everyone one last time to be like, hey, by the way, fish kill me.
Yes.
So he touches the bases, he does his due diligence. Now it's on the party guests for not being a-holes and showing up to a party and cooking fish at someone's house. That's weird in and of itself. Yeah, he even kind of alludes to the fact that he was very upset and his emotions overrode the moment. But I feel like if I'm in that situation and I went out of my way to let everyone know multiple times that I cannot have this in my home because I am deathly allergic to it, and you go beyond it and you do it, I feel like most people in that situation would be like, yeah, get the fuck out. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable. I understand that, like, again, emotions got high, but are we really gonna fault someone for being afraid of something that could actually kill them in that moment? Like, a whole group of you, and that's the issue, is if it's a whole party of people, they all would have known too that you're not one person said, by the way, hey,
Our
David,
host.
David, hey guy, the guy we're throwing this party for, David, you probably shouldn't be cooking that fish because you're a douche, David. Like, I'm just saying, like, there was a lot of people to check the balance there, and no one did it. Sounds like you have a bunch of friends that don't really care a whole lot about you, especially if they're the first thing they're doing, instead of like figuring out the situation, they got their phones up recording you and catching your anger, not going, hey, look, let's sterilize, let's get this stuff out. It is his house. He is deathly allergic. They all kind of, sounds like, look past your allergy. I don't think he's the a-hole. I get it though. He kind of has some perspective on himself about how he acted in the moment, but I don't think it's unjust based off of how he says the severity is to the allergy. Yeah.
Well, all of Reddit also says he's not the a-hole. And in fact, a lot of them brought up, how is it that more than one person didn't bring up that there shouldn't be fish in the house?
Yeah. That's the issue, is like there's so many checks there and they're all going, you know what? Poster's gonna be fine. Go eat outside.
Stay outside your home, the whole party. Well, that was kind of a pretty crazy party. Let's go to a nice family dinner. For our next story, am I the a-hole for announcing my pregnancy immediately after my sister?
I want to get off this ride.
My husband and I have been trying for our second baby for 2.5 years. We lost 2 pregnancies during that time, though we only told our families about the first. I'm incredibly grateful to now be 13 weeks pregnant and have been looking forward to sharing that news with my family. On Friday, we had dinner with my family, my sister, her boyfriend, and our parents, and we decided to share our news then. I decided to wait until dessert so that we could leave shortly after telling everyone. Obviously, it's exciting news, but I was worried about all the emotions that could surface for myself and my husband. Right after we sat down to eat, my sister announced that she and her boyfriend are expecting their first child. I was thrilled for her and congratulated her, as did the rest of the family. Once things had settled down, I didn't want to waste the opportunity to have everyone together and thought it would be a good opportunity to keep the joy flowing, so I shared that I'm pregnant as well. Our parents were so excited to be having 2 new grandbabies just a month apart, and I was super happy that my kids would have a new cousin. My sister was happy for me, but she left very soon after dinner and didn't stay for dessert. She called me this afternoon and told me that as happy as she was for me, she felt that I had done a shitty thing by taking away her moment. She pointed out that this is my second baby, and when I announced for the first time, I didn't have to share with everyone. I didn't want to apologize because I didn't feel I'd done anything wrong, but she finished out the phone call by saying that she didn't think I was really even happy for her if I couldn't have let her have that moment and taken another for myself later on. That really stung. I truly didn't see it that way. I saw it as sharing joy, not stealing it. I also see each pregnancy as being unique, so I don't feel that it was right for her to say I shouldn't have said anything because it was my second baby. Honestly, I think she might be kind of hormonal, but I also want to understand my sister, and I know I'm not going to get anywhere asking her about it. So I want to be enlightened. Am I the a-hole for announcing my pregnancy immediately after my sister? Additional info. I'm visiting from Los Angeles. My sister lives in New Jersey and our parents live in New York City.
I can see where both arguments are sound. I understand from like the OP sister's point of view that that was her first child's moment announcement. You know, we're expecting. And that's a big deal for anyone to come out to the family. That's a prideful moment for everyone. You get the next generation. It's a happy moment. But I can also understand, especially from, she says it with the parents, everyone was just happy that there was 2 new additions to the family, right? When the OP announces her second child. I think in the moment though, if you're the one sitting at the table and your little sister who's having her first child that's the big announcement and you're in that moment, maybe waiting to do it another time could have been more tactful. But I'm also looking at it through a lens where, like the grandparents are, it's just great news to have because you're bringing more life into the world and you're happy about it.
There's
Like,
more
that's,
babies.
yeah, like that. But that's, I can understand from this side of it going, why would that be a problem that you guys are sharing great news? That's all that is great news. You should just be happy that the baby's happy and healthy. I guess I understand too, because I think the OP says it. This is like her one chance because everyone's together. It sounds like they're all across everywhere, right? She's from LA.
Correct.
And everyone's in some different parts of New York.
Yeah, her sister and her boyfriend are in New Jersey and her parents are in New York City.
So, it's just one of those things where they're all culminating, and it just happened that everyone had this big news on this one dinner that they were all sharing together. I don't think that was a bad thing to do. Just all the good news. I understand it from like the little sisters steal my thunder thing, because apparently that's how a lot of people feel, is like they have that one moment in their life they have to shine hard. So don't take it away from me. But I guess I'm going to just lean on that the OP is not the a-hole, and I'm ready to be slapped by Reddit.
Well, let me go and just start this off by saying what the Reddit post says it is. And then we'll go from there. So the Reddit post says that the poster is the a-hole.
Okay.
However, as I'm perusing through a lot of the comments, and I peruse through quite a bit of it, listeners, I don't feel like it's all just singularly the poster is the a-hole, because a lot of them say a combination of not the a-hole and there are no a-holes here. So I'm not sure how the moderators decided to pick a-hole for this particular post.
Okay.
Because it kind of goes against what the consensus of the Redditors themselves, the actual commenters.
Interesting.
Now, I will go ahead and say, yes, there are some spatterings of you are the a-hole in it. Let me go ahead and give all the perspectives that I was reading. So first things first, a lot of people who were saying it's not the a-hole say that there seems to be this new generation of mothers that's coming in that seem to be very attention seeking. Rather than just be happy for the great news in general, they want people to be happy strictly for just
them.
their news.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a thing where it's like, don't steal my thunder. A lot of people say that should be an outdated, like very, very old viewpoint that should be put away with. Another reason why people put down that she's potentially not the a-hole is she had already planned this. It was supposed to be a surprise. It just looked like her sister beat her to it, but it was something that was already planned to do and could have been one of the reasons why they even made that trip to come out to begin with.
That's very true.
Another thing to put in is, could she have waited? Of course. I mean, that's what gave her some of the you are the a-holes, but very gentle you are the a-holes. Yeah. And one of the reasons why a lot of people tagged it as no a-holes here, because it's a very perspective type situation where one person, it is their first time, just like you said. And then for another side, it's just everybody should just be happy that you're getting two little additions. Yep. Other commenters pointed that one of the reasons why the sister is acting like the a-hole here is her first announcement of her pregnancy was a miscarriage, essentially. And to even have brought that up made her feel very callous to even bring it up to begin with. And since the poster actually says she hasn't had just one, she's had two.
Yeah.
And apparently was very shy to even mention that she was pregnant for the second one because of what happened. That once everything seems to be good, she was just so thrilled to go ahead and share it, that then to have kind of her feet taken out from under her and potentially even be reminded of her little losses before was really kind of a callous thing her sister could have done. Because, I mean, she's now pregnant. If she could just imagine losing her little baby, that should have basically been at the forefront of her mind when she would have even said it. So, as I said before, personally, I don't agree with what the moderators put on the post, because I've read through the comments and there shouldn't have been a definitive you are the a-hole versus you are not the a-hole. It really should have been no a-holes here, since this perspective, it really is about what direction you're coming from.
Well, Well, this is a perfect example. I'd love to hear what our listeners think about this situation, because if the moderators and everyone was split, let's hear what you guys have to think. Was she the a-hole? Was she not? I'd be interested to hear what other people think too.
All right, let's see what we get here on YouTube, yes? So, now on to our next story. Am I the a-hole for blowing up my fiance after she kept insisting that my daughter, 14, cut her hair before the wedding? Throw away to protect the privacy of those involved. Me, 39 male, and my fiance, 35 female, got engaged a few months ago. We are almost done with the wedding planning and everything is going great. However, my fiance got involved in my daughter's, 14, preparation for the wedding and even paid for things my daughter needed. My daughter has long hair, and my fiance had suggested she get it cut before the wedding, even though my daughter isn't taking any part in the wedding. Her choice. My fiance brought magazines and visited sites to have my daughter look at and choose from different haircuts. My daughter made it obvious she has no plans on having her hair cut. I told my fiance to leave it alone, but she kept pushing it, saying she wants to encourage my daughter to try new things. But I again told her that my daughter had begun feeling uncomfortable and she needed to leave it alone. She dropped it, but a few days later she brought it up again during breakfast. To be frank, I started getting fed up, especially after she flat out started begging my daughter to revisit one of the looks she suggested and cut her hair. I told my daughter to go to her room, then blew up at my fiance telling her to knock it the fuck off and stop pressuring my daughter into doing something she doesn't want to do. She looked shocked and said that she was just trying to make sure that the focus will be on her and her bridesmaids, and that my daughter was purposely trying to stand out, especially with the dress she picked and her continual refusal to get a new haircut. She said both my daughter and I were overreacting since hair grows back, but I firmly told her to drop it completely and stop bringing it up. She started ranting about how I keep undermining her as a future stepmom and how I'm making her look like she's doing a bad thing. Then the argument got worse. She went to stay with her mom for a couple days. I sent her a few texts to talk about the issue, but all she talked about was how unfair I was to yell at her and treat her like this. Am I the a-hole?
Nope. OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. This was a pretty clear and cut situation. He's told his fiance not happening more than once in this story. The daughter said not happening. I don't want to come in here. What shocked me and the red flag popped up was her excuse to the OP was that the 14-year-old child was trying to take the attention from her and her bridesmaids on her wedding day, when the 14-year-old said she wants nothing to do with this. That's crazy talk. So I would already start looking at that relationship suspiciously, especially when she's sitting there going, you're undermining me as a future stepmother. I don't think this girl's looking at this woman as a motherly figure, even in a little aspect. Just from the outside in, you're already trying to force her to do things before you're even married to her dad. She's not looking at you as mama. Like, that's a whole thing. Yeah, OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. Probably might want to take this as a cue for what could be your future with this woman. I just don't know if that's what she's sticking her hand in the ground with and trying to force your daughter to do things. I would be suspicious of other things that she could be doing later down the road. So yeah, he's not the a-hole. Back your daughter up. A hairstyle, and to be as callous as going, well, hair grows back. So does everything else. If someone doesn't want to do something because they don't feel comfortable with it, that's not your right to sit there and force them and then go, I'm invalidating what you're thinking because hair grows back. What? Oof, she got some problems. So OP, be careful.
Well, all of Reddit does agree and say that he's not the a-hole, and to keep on defending his daughter. That it's very weird. One commenter said that the bride would say that a 14-year-old girl is trying to upstage her on her wedding. It's just odd to begin with. A lot of commenters were questioning what kind of relationship his daughter had with his fiance. Well, no, apparently they were on great terms. Everything was going fine. They went shopping together, and then after doing shopping for the the wedding, his daughter apparently came up to him and said, "Hey, look, I'm having fun doing this stuff with, future stepmom, but she's talking to me about cutting my hair and I don't want to do that." And then that's where everything's kind of just gone downhill.
Gotcha.
So it just appears that there's some insecurity from the bride. Maybe the pressure is getting to her. Maybe she's doing a lot of comparisons because
Might
if
just
she's
be
in
a
her
weird flex.
her 30s and in her teens and she's shopping for her and seeing the newer styles of whatever's happening, and there's some sort of really underlying jealousy there.
And for her next act, she is going to make her relationship with her stepdaughter disappear.
If it hasn't already happened.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've completed that, hopefully they go ahead and either get it resolved one way or another. Let's go on to our last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's wife a joke that made her uncomfortable?
I want to be on this ride.
My dad divorced my mom when my brother was 4, I was 3, and my sister was 1. He divorced my stepmother when my half-brother was 3 and my half-sister was 2. My dad is currently married to his 3rd wife, and they have one son who is 6. My grandmother really likes my dad's current wife, but she has a weird sense of humor. Most people in our family do. Sunday, my grandmother said to my dad's wife that she liked her so much that when they get divorced, she will keep her and get rid of my dad. My dad's wife looked a little thrown by the comment and said she and my dad aren't getting divorced. I joked, "Of course not. You don't have a daughter." She stared at me and asked what I meant. I explained that my dad only divorces women when they have a daughter. That isn't the reason my parents divorced. It was just a joke about a coincidence. But she said it was a horrible thing to say about my sisters. My grandmother then joked that it was the opposite because it implied my dad wanted daughters and only stayed with women long enough to get one. So as long as she doesn't have another kid or only has sons, he'll stick around waiting for a girl. We both started laughing, and my dad's wife stared at us silently and then got up and left the room. At this point, I started to wonder if I crossed a line. My grandmother said I was fine, that she was just a sensitive person and a little ribbing is good for her. Still, I do feel bad and wonder if I should apologize. Am I the a-hole?
This is a good story to leave off of. This sounds like a very fun family to be a part of. I love when people, especially when you're close with a family member, it's fun. The irony of a situation, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at?
I want to adopt this grandmother.
They sound like a hoot. OP, we'll start with this. You are definitely not the a-hole. It almost sounds like, though, that there's a lot more insecurities for the current wife that she's been harboring and feeling for a little bit. Maybe there is some stuff going down within the marriage. Because if you're already jumping like that to a joke, she's already running the bases right now in that thought process. Because a lot of the time, especially when something doesn't bother you, obviously you're going to laugh about it, right? Like,
correct.
That's where I'm like, if you're already being defensive, there's been something going on. So I feel for that situation. The current wife maybe should have handled it a little bit better. She might just be a sensitive person. I don't know. But if you're in that type of family, you would know that that kind of stuff just goes on and you would learn how to already handle that kind of joke. It wasn't mean spirited, right? Like, at least I don't look at that joke as being mean spirited. Maybe the wife already did math on everyone else and was like, as long as she's not a girl, I'm going to be here. Like, I don't know.
You never know.
The OP, you're not the a-hole. It's more a funny situation.
Well, all of Reddit says not the a-hole. There are some commenters that say everyone sort of sucks here because you didn't take our feelings into consideration. In the end, it looks like a lot of Redditors have a really good sense of humor and just found the whole thing really funny because it was just one of those weird coincidences where, he wasn't meaning it. We find out later on in his updates in the comments that our poster is 19. So he's relatively young, and it's very nice to actually hear about somebody who's young that's hanging out with a grandparent and has like a really fun sense of humor together. There was some questions that they had on like his previous marriages and why it is that it went that way. And from what our poster has gathered, the 2 marriages before, the father, I guess, married very strong personality women.
Sounds like it.
And it was like a clashing of the clans when it came to certain viewpoints. I know some Redditors were hating on the father because, he had left when these kids were very young. But our poster said nobody was left in poverty here. It's never been like that with this situation. So it's good to know.
As long as his dad was still a part of their lives and was still participating in the kids as they were growing up, then there's not really a problem. People split up. Just because you leave the home doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It just means you two weren't compatible and you were doing what was best for each other. You can still raise your kids and not be in the home, though. I don't like that designation where if someone leave someone when the young kids are that they're automatically a bad person. As long as they were still part of their lives, as long as they were still participating in things, you're still a good parent. You just weren't compatible with your partner at the time.
Exactly. And that's exactly how he explains it. But apparently who he's married now is very sweet and quiet and helpful. Very different, apparently, from the previous two wives that he's had. He says that everybody in the family likes her, but sometimes they don't know how to interact with her because she's a bit too delicate.
Sure. And I think everyone has that person in their family. You just have to learn what can and can't be not said, but more just they're right. Read the room, what bothers them, what their tics are. They're part of the family. Obviously, you poked a little too much, so she is very sensitive to that situation. But maybe she'll come around and she'll get on the jokes later on. Or and if she doesn't, that's just the way she is.
And you're absolutely right. Everything's all about perspective here. I know that there is one awarded comment that did make me laugh because it was unexpected. And they say, not the a-hole. The next wife might find it funny.
You see? That's a great way to look at it. It's all just fun, man. Yep.
You look like you were updating in the middle of the movie.
It buffered slow. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We will be regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Timstradamus and I absolutely have enjoyed everybody who has been watching our channel, and we look forward to providing more content for you soon.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.